thinking that uh, I don't have to do that anymore. Let me just make sure it's on Facebook. But I've been making a lot of loan content, and I was honestly thinking of just kind of focusing on the podcast more, um,
Mhm.
because there's only so much you can talk about loans. A lot of it's going to be the same, unless it's like a specific
Mhm.
question that somebody has. Um,
Yeah.
it's really hard to kind of go into depth on topics, and so it's like I want to do something else, and this is my something else that's it's fun. I get to sit here and have a conversation with someone like you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we it looks like we are good to go. We are live.
Oh man, we're
So,
live.
yep.
Okay.
No pressure. The world is watching.
Yeehaw.
Bryan DeMuro, welcome to the show. Super glad to have you on.
Thank you so much.
There we go. Let's get those banners up. So, how long have you been investing in real estate?
Um, so my first project I did, I bought a home from a judicial sale in the county here, and I was 22 when we got that. It took about 9 months to get the deed. So right before I turned 23 is when we actually started working on the project, and so fast forward now, it's been about 11 years total.
Oh, wow. How many different strategies have you been playing with?
Oh man, so I've done fix and flip, wholesale, buy and hold, helped with land development, self storage. I actually just completed my first private money lending deal. Um, Never done anything in short term rentals or anything like that yet, but I mean, I've done a kind of a wide variety of a bunch of stuff. We've done like I've taken place in like construction, as in like not like new build homes, but like pole buildings, stuff like that. So I mean, I've kind of been around and seen a lot of things over the years, and just like a sponge, I've been absorbing every little bit that I can.
Did
So,
you always know real estate was just that thing you were going to stick to?
dude, I I had no clue. I mean, how I even got into real estate is kind of funny because whenever we're going to go back in time a little bit, I was racing motocross and skateboarding, which I don't race anymore, but still ride, still skateboard like multiple times a week. And on the racing front, I got hurt in Florida, and I was 20 years old, and I'm like, dude, I got to figure out my life. And the guy that I do storage with, I was helping him with some of his rental properties, and I had construction experience by helping him with stuff. And after 6 8 months, I started feeling better that I could really start working again. And I was like, dude, let's do a flip house. And he told me no because I was 20 years old. And after about 2 years, I consistently asked him about every month, 3 weeks, and eventually he told me yeah. And it wasn't like this is an end all be all. It's just I had I had construction experience, and I was like, this is something I can do. So I mean, that's initially how I got into the whole realm of real estate to begin with. And it's kind of like doing drugs, like you do it once and you're like, whoa, this is kind of awesome. And you just keep doing it. And that's kind of how I got my start into it. Like it's kind of funny to say it like that, but it's yeah, it was never I never really at first, when I was brainstorming the idea of doing this, it was never like, oh, I'm gonna do this, full time for a living. And once once the first project was complete, I mean, that's where everything kind of expanded and took off.
I love that. The follow-up game is like you already had it down. You already knew what you needed to do. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was lucky. I mean, one of the closest people to me in my life at that point in time. I mean, he made his money in real estate. Like when I first met him, he is at the time he would have been 43, and I'm seeing the life that he had, and it was all from self storage. And he didn't have a giant rental portfolio, but he had rentals. And
Mhm.
I saw like kind of the passive income and kind of I saw what that did, and I saw what that guy's life was like, and I was like, man, that would be cool one day to do that. But to touch up on the follow up side, I mean, everybody will agree that's the most important part of the game. Also, the hardest part. I'll give this guy a call tomorrow, and then you're kicking yourself in the ass because you forget to call the guy. But yeah, I mean, I really didn't have a choice, and you ask enough, I mean, eventually you'll get a yes. So I was lucky I got the yes, and it was so funny though because I used him for private money on that deal, and I remember we got the deal, and he was not happy about it. I mean, he gave me his word, and he was like, "Dude, if you screwed me on this deal, I swear to God." And I mean, I don't blame him. I was 22 with $1,300 to my name. If I sold the clothes off my back, so like, I get it, but we did the deal. I split profit with him. I made $12,500 right about there. I was rich. I was like, dude, I can buy a Lambo now. I've never seen money like that in my life. And it was weird though. Like the coolest part of that was actually seeing this just dilapidated, destroyed building come into like a nice home that was a first time home buyer that bought it, and this was like 2013, 2014, whenever it sold. I don't even remember anymore. But that was a bigger accomplishment. Like that made me feel better than getting the paycheck. So it was like, hey, I get to do something I like. This makes me feel good, and I get paid out of it. It's like the trifecta.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty difficult for people to find something like that in life in general, where it's like, I love doing this thing.
Mhm.
And I mean, maybe it's to a certain extent that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But I think at the end of the it's always work.
Mhm.
But if you love it, it just makes it easier.
100%. 100%. I one thing because we do stuff with self storage. The one thing I hate doing, and I jokingly say, I only work probably 2 days a year, and that's when I have to change a 5x10 door spring, like for the small storage doors. But like you said, besides that, like it's don't get me wrong, like everything, you have your up days and your down days. But I mean, overall, like I mean, it's it's the accomplishment and just meeting people. Like so many, you get to meet so many unique people, and it's a blast the whole time while you're doing it.
What do you think is the biggest hindrance for people getting started?
I would say there's two issues with that. You can break that down into two parts. Would be A, finding the deal, and I would say B, financing the deal. So it's in today's markets, like there's always deals out there, but it's not like you can just go to the MLS and find them. I mean, you can call long listed, on days market on market deals, talk with agents. You can have them, I talked to a guy 2 days ago that, 225 days on market, and he hung up on me. So it's a mixture of finding the deal or getting in front of the people that are looking to sell. And then too, like how are you going to fund it? I mean, a lot of these deals, when we buy them, banks aren't going to lend on them. So, you're using hard money lines or hard money lenders, credit lines, private money, stuff like that. And I think the challenging part is finding the people to do that. And it's really strange from the outside in. There's so many people that are like, yeah, I'll throw money into your deal. But when you're not in the community of people that are doing this, it's like, I don't know anybody that has any money. If I'm sure you've been to plenty of real estate meetups around here. You'll find people. You could raise money so quick at a local real estate meetup if you just talk to half the people there. You know, I really do think that's like the hardest two parts of really starting doing all this.
I will agree. Finding the deal and finding the money and just starting to take action, I think. I
Mhm.
I've come across a couple people, not very many, um, but who have been like, yeah, really ready to go, high energy, ready to do the thing. But at the same time, when they were going to make those connections, it sounded like it was, you know, let's do the thing, but it's like, what are you working on? And it's like, well, I'm not really working on anything. I'm waiting for the thing to happen. Once I get a
Mhm.
partnership, once I get the LLC, once I get this and that, and it's like just start because that's what people really want to see is you taking
Yeah.
imperfect action.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I didn't start with the LLC. I mean, I just bought stuff in my name, and I have, the right insurances so that it's not that big of a deal for the stuff that I still have in my name, but like I never got tied up on that. It was just like jump out of the airplane, figure out the parachute on the way down and hope for the best landing possible. Mitigating all the right stuff so that you don't just go splat, but that's kind of the way I did it. And I often will tell people like just go and talk to as many people as you can. And if you don't have an answer, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't. All you got to say is that's a great question. Let me get back to you on it. And it's hard because you want to go into stuff like you know it and you're the professional and you don't have to. I mean, obviously, if you would know a lot of the stuff, you would probably feel more confident. But it's okay not to know stuff. It's totally fine. Like I still learn stuff every day doing this, and I always tell people like just go. You'll figure it out. Nothing's gonna kill you in this. You will not die. You will wake up tomorrow. Like it's fine. Like just keep learning, keep moving, get your reps in.
What's one thing you wish someone would have told you before you started?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot. So to be fair, like I said, I was very, very fortunate to have Dan with me, the dude with storage, and some of the people he worked with. So I was more on the rental side. I was lucky that it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna collect every cent of rent and every like I've seen what happens on all sides of it, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. Um, Things that I wish I would have known earlier is kind of along the lines of raising funds, how to allocate stuff a little bit better, build systems would have helped a lot better. There was a couple times where I hit some mild stone walls in what I was doing, where it's like, whoa, like I have to change everything, and it wasn't the end of the world. You take a little bit of time, restructure what you're doing on the back end, get everything organized, and keep moving. That's just what growth is. But I never really. That was the one thing that I slightly lacked a little bit was like systems and just spending the time to like talk to other people. Go to real estate meetups and talk to people. That's what I did. And like, what are you doing to do this? And kind of taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and kind of making my own, like a recipe. Some people say you take a half cup of sugar. Some people are like you sprinkle it on there, and that's kind of how I made my recipe for the real estate. It was just kind of finding what worked for me and listening to other people to help build those systems properly.
I think that's great. Communication is pretty key. Um, what would you say for people who are in those rooms and who are kind of struggling to make those connections?
I would say going curious, authentic and curious. Be who you are. I know it doesn't look like it now. When I started going to real estate meetups, I had this hair that came down to here. You might have met me when I still had long hair. I looked like a derelict, and I kind of loved it. I'm not gonna lie, but like, go in and be who you are. Be enthusiastic and authentic. Like, be who you are and just talk to people. Like, the weird thing is a lot of people, especially when they're new and they're meeting these people, like they're like, oh man, this guy has the look. It doesn't matter. That guy that has 50 units in that room, he can go to another room and he's a baby investor compared to some other people. Like nobody, at the end of the day, they're just people, like go in, offer value, see what they're looking for, or go look for a deal for them. Hey, if you're out of town and you need someone to take a photo of something, I'm here. Whatever you can do just to add value, and just like don't even make it about the real estate. Like talk to them. When I met A great example of this is I met Jamil Damji probably 2 years ago, the first time I met him, and I knew that his favorite food was hot wings. And I'm in this room in a bar in State College, like after they did a class at Penn State University, and they had this meet up at this like basement bar thing. And there wasn't many people there. And I go up to Jamil, I'm like, hey, dude, I have a question I got to ask you. And he goes, what? And you can see like his brain's like, oh, this is going to be a comping question or something with Astro or whatever. I'm like, where's the best place in the country that you've had hot wings? And it's so funny because he laughs so hard. He goes, that's what you want to ask me? And I'm like, yeah. And the thing is, like, the guy won't forget me. You know what I mean? Like, you're just being enthusiastic and authentic. And I think just being who you are and not trying to cover or, put your shield up, I think that helps drastically. Like, it just helps. It makes you a person to somebody. And that's probably the best way if you're brand new to go out and just talk to people like that. That's the easiest way to do it, I think.
What a great example of picking something up about someone and remembering it for later when you're actually in person with them. That's amazing. But when it comes to
I think it's kind of
curiosity,
funny.
I think it's hilarious. That's amazing. Well, when it comes to curiosity, how can people just be more naturally curious?
um, this is gonna sound kind of weird saying it like this, but I would you have to almost make that person the most interesting person that you met. Like I've one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it's by Dale Carnegie, and I use that book in so many whether I'm doing lead generation for my wholesale business, whether I'm dealing with a storage customer that's upset because they got their unit sold at a storage auction, or whenever I'm meeting people, open-ended questions and like actually genuinely care. You know what I mean? Like genuinely care what you're talking about and figure out what this person is. Like open-ended questions, getting them talking. It's the funny thing with that is if you can do that, that goes into like I said with like lead generation. You don't want to just ask a seller or like an agent, for instance, just what's wrong with the property. The better answer or the better question is, hey man, I've seen this property has been up for a little while. What's going on with it? Can you tell me the story about this? And you get them to talk. And that from just talking to random people at meetups or other investors that you meet, like that will carry on later on into your career and you'll get better and better with it over time.
It makes I definitely see where you're coming from. And I think another one of the tough parts, at least in my experience from talking to agents, is when you come up against one that I think brusque might be the brusque. Brusque is that the right? Did
I
I just
think I
make
know what you're
something up?
talking about though. Maybe.
A little rough around the edges.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, I got hung up on one 2 days ago, and I as a rule of thumb, I don't do direct to agent. I mean, 99% of all my acquisitions are direct to sellers. So, um, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I know what you mean. Dealing with agents can sometimes it can go great, it can go terrible. Um, it's just all with how you handle them and coming in with, hey, how can we get this done and get your commissions paid? I want to get you paid out of this. I want to build a relationship with you. And sometimes sometimes they're like it and they're about it, and other times they're just like, no, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'm like, okay, have at it, you know.
Yeah, I was partially thinking about it in more of a general sense where it's like in real estate, in business, I think you should just try not to take anything personal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's a lesson that you think you learned too late?
Oh man, a lesson that I learned too late. I would say a lesson that I've learned too late was it was actually more on the construction side of like rentals. So a lot of what I bought was value add multifamily. Um, and the way I would buy them is I would buy them if they cash flowed as they sat. So I didn't have to, wave a magic wand and raise rents and do all this work up front. I bought them so I was cash flowing as they sit. They have good bones. They need cosmetic renovations. And as people move out, I would do the renovation and eventually get the values up. And then I have equity that I can sit on. I have equity that I can pull. I have options. You know what I mean? I have options then. And the last 3 years, I've really transitioned more and more from doing like I initially started doing this the hardest way possible by doing as much of the work as I could, mainly because a lot of this stuff was close to me. And to be fair, like I love doing acquisitions and selling properties, but I love building stuff. I really do. And it took me till about 3 years ago to really let go of that and let more people come in on that. And, you know, it's weird. You look at something like, an apartment turnover might cost 15,000, but it's like, well, I can do it myself for 7,500. So it's like, yeah, you save half, but it also takes all your time. So something that I've really been focusing on now is like leveraging as many tasks as I can. So like there's certain stuff if I get a message through my management software and it's something stupid, I'll go and look at it because there is times that it's like, well, if it's something stupid like a light switch needs replaced, I'll go and do that. I mean, I have light switches. It takes me 20 minutes to get there, 5 minutes and I'm out. An electrician will cost me $200 probably to drive out there, whatever. So like there is certain stuff now that I still do like with my rental portfolio, but it's really been finding the contractors and building that side of stuff on the rentals and developing the relationship with them. And it's kind of funny. You give them enough work and eventually like, you call and they're there immediately. Whenever you first call, it's like, yeah, I can get out there next week. I can get out in 3 days, 5 days. You consistently use the same people that are doing well by you and miraculously you call them and they're there later that afternoon. So like that is like one of the bigger lessons that I've learned. And it's slightly getting older and hearing other more established people like, what's your time worth? And to be honest, I have a thick head at times and it took me a little bit of time to realize what my time's worth. So that's probably one of the lessons that I've learned later that I probably should have worked on earlier, but at the same side, it's character building, so it is what it is.
So myself, in the future, I am thinking of doing some house hacking.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on going to get, like property management and all that straight away so it's just out of my hands versus getting that experience of managing a property and doing the repairs when you do the turnover and things of that nature?
I would argue almost, and there's going to be a mild uproar over this, but I would almost argue your first 3 or 4 units you should self-manage. The reason why is because with 3 or 4 units, the management side of it isn't that hard. You get good at screening tenants, you get good at managing them, and just all the weird little stuff that you learn. There's certain just weird things that you learn about management over time. And the reason why I really think if you're going to scale up in real estate, your first 3 or 4, manage them, because you will at least be able to carry that experience over when you have 16, when you have 30. If you want to scale that big. If you plan on scaling and doing this more and building like a full business out of it, take a little bit of time and learn the management side of it. It'll make it easier. You can you'll be able to direct and help your property manager with certain things, or you'll be able to ask better questions. As for the maintenance side, if you can't do it, like if it's something you're not comfortable doing it, hire it out 100%. But if you're, especially if you're house hacking, there's nothing wrong with listening to a podcast and painting a living room in your evenings. There is nothing wrong with that, and I will say that forever. Um, your first couple, whenever you need to run, when you need to run lean. Do what you can, and like I said, in time, if you can hold the property in time, it will 99% of the time work out. You know what I mean? So that's my personal take on it. Some people may agree, some people may disagree. I definitely think there's a point in time where you offload all of that or get like a full service management software. I use Doorloop. Um, the only thing that I really get to or have to do is like if I get a maintenance message through it, like if it's something I'm not going to do, I just straight call somebody. But everything, all my tenant interactions are through that. So it's about as hands off for me as I can. I like it. That's what I use. So
Very interesting. Are you still managing? Are you managing any of your rentals currently?
yeah, I have 18 units through Doorloop, which is like I said, it's a management software. It's similar to like a Buildium Appfolio, but it's really like it's hands off, to be honest. Like I don't there's not much that I do. So and it's it works. The thing is, we're looking for some more multifamily. So, if we buy something, 16, 10, something like that, that's probably when I will fully offload all of that into management. But right now, I mean, I'm spending per property, I don't know, probably 25 minutes a month doing it. So it's not like it's super time invasive on me. So I don't mind it yet. You know what I mean? It doesn't really eat up too much of my time.
When it comes to owning rentals, what do you think is the biggest thing for someone getting started to look out for?
There's a whole lot, and I can tell you about my first rental property. So I bought my first rental property. I closed on it. It was probably it was the Thursday before Super Bowl Sunday in 2018. So it was actually like the last week in January 2018. And I bought this house off market for $82,000. It appraised at 102,000, I think, something like that, 100, 102. I had equity going in. I did 20% down payment, and I did a 15-year mortgage on it. And you're gonna love this as a lender. I swear, you're gonna laugh so hard at this. I'm at the bank, and they're like, "So your mortgage payment's going to be $517.73 on a 15-year mortgage." I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "What are you bringing in at rent?" And it was either 650 or 625. They're like, "You sure you can afford that?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like I got a little over $100. I'm winning. And I didn't think of this thing called insurance, taxes, none of that. Like my taxes and insurance weren't in the loan. So that was just principal interest, 517.73. And it was funny. I took a loss of like, I don't know, 1,200 bucks, something like that annually. By the time, your depreciation, it was basically break even after the tax write off on the depreciation. But that was really funny. And even the funnier thing about that too was it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm gonna start buying rentals. I had that money still from whenever I did that fix and flip a few years before. I started managing self storage right after that, so I took about 2 years to really learn storage and figure all that out. And I still had that money. I was like, wealthy people buy homes. I need to buy a house, like a rental house, and I just went and did it. Not much thought into it. I was like, this is what I need to do. And in hindsight, there were so many lessons in that. Um, the biggest one is if you can buy a property and you don't have to make money in it, but make sure that you have money aside for taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy, capex. If you have 25% going aside and you're not making money, but you're able to put money aside for when something happens and you're still paying the property, it works, especially because over time rents will catch up. Um, there was a lot of weird things with that tenant. I ended up evicting that tenant about 4 years later. I'm not sure what they were on. It was definitely drugs of some kind, but it was kind of a sad story. The husband left, some guy moves in, not on the lease. I tell her I don't want him in, and well, too bad, I'm in anyway. One of those kind of stories. And house gets destroyed, and it was interesting because I was able to go through and not refinance, but I was able to go through and like redo this entire house. And it was it was a pretty they left it bad. I mean, they kicked in every door. And it didn't break the door, it broke all the door frames, like all that kind of stuff. And in hindsight, I was like, I probably should have got rid of these people and did this whenever I bought it, you know? So I didn't, whenever I bought it, I didn't raise rents right away. I let them stay at their current rent for a year. I did slowly raise rents, and I was cash flowing about a year and a half after I bought it. I was actually like making a little bit of money a month. And that kind of goes along with the thing of if you can hold on, it'll work out. But at the end of the day, I got like 4 years of loan pay down, 4 years of appreciation, 4 years of depreciation on my taxes. I got them out. I was able to renovate the house. And the house that I bought for 82,000 right now is worth about 180, and I owe like 7.5 years left on the loan. So like there's a lot of weird ups and downs that happened with it, but at the end, well, I can't even say the end, but at this part of the story right now, it's all working well. And I have a tenant in there. She's been in for a little over a year now, and I'm making money off of it every month finally, like good money off of it. And she's happy. She's taking care of the place. And so far it's so good there. So I mean that's kind of one of the stories I like to talk about, just with that first property and how it panned out over the years.
I think that's great. The most important lesson I took away from it was knowing your break even point. And
Yeah.
and that's to say being okay with breaking even because rents are going to rise later. They always do.
Hmm.
And as long as you do have that money to put some to the side, so you have that reserve, you have that backup, that should be enough. It is the
A hundred,
long game that we're playing.
100%. The cool thing with real estate is if you do it long enough, you will make tons of money. But it's not like a scratch off ticket or winning a big jackpot at the casino. This is get rich slow. It takes time, and it's you let time do its thing, and when time's done doing its thing, if you've treated your properties well, like that's when the payday comes.
What advice do you give the most often but struggle to follow?
Ooh, in what respect? And what let's talk about that first of all. I mean, what I tell people not to eat sugar a lot, and I'm really bad at that. I'm not gonna lie. You
that's
will
way
catch
too.
me eating gummy worms all the time. But um, hmm, I'm gonna break that into two separate things. I will say on the wholesale leg of things, I would say one thing that I always struggle with is follow-ups. Like I have to have them not only in my CRM, but I have to have them written down, like physically written down on my desk. That way I'm like, I know I'm calling this person. And it's not that I don't want to. I just get working on something and I forget. So like that is a ultimate downfall of mine at times. I've gotten a lot better with that over the last 2 years. I've gotten much better with that. I would say on the rental side, a piece of advice. To be fair, I don't give too much advice out on rentals. I would say one thing I do tell people to do a lot is underwrite as many deals as you can. Um, that way, like even if you're not ready, say you're like, I wanna buy a rental next year. I'm educating now. I tell people start underwriting deals now, whether or not they even make sense. If you find a house that's 250,000 and rents are 1,200, underwrite it. And they're like, why? What's that do? And you get good at running your numbers. And when I started, at least from what we went through with my first rental, that was something that I was terrible with. And I've gotten to the point now, like with the wholesale side with Marcelo, like one of my key roles with that is like underwriting creative deals, underwriting cash deals. And then like with rental properties, like I'm a nerd when it comes to the numbers. Like I love running numbers on stuff, comping stuff. So that's kind of like the biggest things that I would really say with that. But I've been the last 2 years I've gotten a lot better with follow up, at least on the wholesale side. And I have to 100% like Marcelo Vomaro too. Like we wholesale together, and he has been a major help. Like um, it's nice. I would say another big thing too is find someone that you vibe with and work with them. Work with them. I mean, I'm really good friends with the guy outside of work. Um, when we're working together, it's awesome. We can bounce ideas back and forth. He holds me accountable. I hold him accountable. Accountability buddies, that kind of thing. And it's really taken a weight off of my shoulders with the other things that I have going on between, the rentals, fix and flips, storage. Like it's really been a massive weight off my shoulders. And like there's that's another thing I would say too. Like, find someone that you like to work with and that you vibe with and you have different skills, and put your different skills together, and you'll be surprised at what happens with that over time. Staying consistent.
Certainly a relationship game, and if you can find somebody that you vibe with for the long haul, it just makes everything that much easier.
100%. A
Mm.
hundred percent.
Circling back to what you were saying about the underwriting, I think that's super important because just like comping, like I used to comp properties just about every day. So I would
Mhm.
watch Jamil's comping videos, comp the property, finish the video until I was like getting them pretty spot on. And then I, just kept comping ones that I was seeing. And I got to the point where I could knock it out in, you know, a minute or two. And I stopped doing
Mhm.
that. And what I realized was all of these skills that we're learning are very much perishable. If you don't use it, you will lose it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. You just got to keep the sword sharp all the time. Keep the sword sharp, do the it's just like getting a six pack, man. You gotta do the work every single day, and miraculously, those abs show up. And it's if you want to be a killer at acquisitions or comping or whatever. You just got to do it every single day. And I don't even mean you have to do it 8 hours a day. I mean, think of it like this: if you spend 25 minutes and comp for 25 minutes every day, and I know this isn't going to be fun, but if you do it just for fun and you comp stuff, eventually you're going to get good at it. You'll be able to understand, oh, this is what they mean by a like property. Just because this one 2 doors down has the same square footage, but it's a 2-story house and this is a ranch house 3 doors down, like it's not the same. So there is all the little nuances, and just the more you do it, the more your eyes train to look for the little things that that you have to look at. So yeah, it's like you said, if you don't actively and you're not actively doing it, it gets, not that you can't do it, it just gets a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think follow up is super important. So going back to what you said about the CRM, for someone getting started, what would you say is the best CRM? And I know that there are thousands of them out there, but
Okay.
I'm thinking in the sense that a lot of people start in real estate to make money, and some of them start from a place of uh, living paycheck to paycheck, let's say. And so, how can someone get started without blowing a ton on systems?
All right, we're taking this back to the early 2000s. Get one of those accordion binders for the month that has 30 days in it, or 31 days. And every time you talk to someone, you put a piece of paper in. And every day, you have your first through your 30th or 31st, whatever. And say, today's the 25th. You open up your file on the 25th and it says, hey, I have to call this guy, I have to call this guy, I have to call this guy, and you can take manual notes. You can 100% run a business out of that. Is it scalable where you can have a VA making calls for you and have another guy, helping do stuff? No, but if you're doing it yourself and you really want to run lean, that is a very effective way. Outside of that, you can do. This is also going to sound funny. We all have iPhones. You can fully use your calendar as a CRM. Outside of that, the next level up, you have your free CRMs like Trello. We use Trello a lot, like with our VA Maria, who is, by the way, shout out to Maria. I love that lady. She's incredible. But I would say probably to start, if you're running lean, your paycheck to paycheck, I would use, like I said, an accordion binder with 30 days in it. And old school, I would use that and just do it manually. People will laugh at you, but the thing is, it's effective as long as you pull out your sheet every single day and look at what you're supposed to do on that day and do it. The whole point of the CRM is like, this needs done at this day, do it. If you really think about it, that's what it's supposed to be. So if you're running cheap and that's what you have to do, it's as simple as that. Like, don't overcomplicate stuff. The thing that I've seen a lot, like in real estate communities, is you have people that haven't done a deal yet that have spent, they go high level for a year, they pay an integrator $500 to build out all this stuff. They get their website done, they have the logo for their LLC, they have all this stuff, and they have not generated a single lead. So I always tell people, before you do that, like, start generating leads. Just generate leads, and that accordion binder thing works incredibly well. Like I said, I know it's almost barbaric in the world that we live in today, but it works. It gets the job done. Outside of that, Trello works great. Trello's free.
The accordion binder does sound a little bit painful. The iPhone
Painful.
calendar, great idea, great step up. Um, but yeah, I feel like you really don't have to make it complicated. And I really like what you said about the whole point of a CRM being this person needs to get called on this date, or you need to get this task done on this date.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is about CRMs, but I always seem to use one for a little bit and then just fall off of it. And so I was the person who did buy systems in the beginning and then realized that I was wasting money on them later. Uh, Great lessons to learn, but
Mhm.
the CRM I made recently is really just a spreadsheet. And it's not overwhelming when the only column that I'm looking at, or two columns, is when did I last talk to this person? When am I talking to them next?
Yeah. Yeah. You said that's just like a spreadsheet that you built?
Yeah,
Here's the thing, is it simple? Like,
super
I'm
simple.
assuming it's simple. Does it work?
Yep.
You're winning. That it's literally as simple as that. Like, it's just naturally your brain wants to always overcomplicate stuff, and it's like, just keep it simple. I agree. I agree. The accordion binder sounds like it's a real pain in the butt. It really, it would be, but like it's that simple. If you really break it down to what you need, it can be that simple.
I think a lot of it is, in my case at least, was thinking about the setup work. Like when I think about setting up a CRM, I get an analysis paralysis. That's probably the best way to explain it. And
Mhm.
the thing I learned is that whatever you're trying to do, you might as well just start on it because, for one, the time it's taking you to make that decision, you could have already made a decision and been 5 steps ahead than you just sitting in your indecisiveness.
Yep.
And for two, whatever you're doing, once you start, you'll slowly start figuring things out. You'll slowly start making things faster or cutting unnecessary things out. And it's just something that you wouldn't have learned had you not just got started in the first place.
Mhm. 100%. I will be the first to admit, like, setting up CRM is not my personality type. I am like a bull in a china shop. I'm just It doesn't fit my personality type, and I will, again, all the credit to Marcelo. Like, he the way he set it up, ours works incredible. And I don't think it was really even his personality type either. That, I mean, I'm sure he was saying some choice words while setting it up, but I mean, he did an incredible job. And I mean, we haven't changed any of it in close to a year and a half now. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I got lucky because that's something like I know what I'd want, and I would have to find someone that could do it. And thankfully, my partner, uh, he knows what I'm looking for. I know what he's looking for, like what we need out of it. And he was able to set everything up to make it work. So
No, that's wonderful. It sounds like he
yeah.
really took to the task, and I feel like part of that was sitting in there and he was like, I never want to do this again. And so let me just think of everything possible.
Oh man, we had many a late night conversation. I sat with him while he did it, and I can't say physically sat with him, but I camped out on Google Meets with him while he did it over evenings. And like I said, it was definitely a pain for him to do, but I didn't just totally dump it on him and leave. But uh, yeah, he was able to get that and get it solved. Because I'll tell you, I'd still be trying to figure it out right now.
If there's one thing that you could do in real estate and you could just do it all day, what would that thing be?
Oh man, one thing in real estate. Hmm, that's a challenging question. Um, a co- I I really enjoy like analyzing like rent. Um, I think a better answer to that is like what am I looking to do and like where the end goal is, because that's kind of what I want to be doing all day anyway, is like not like huge 100 plus units, like 100 plus unit properties, but I would love to be buying like mid-sized multifamily and doing value add on them and either selling them back out or keeping that. And that's more what I want to do. You know what I mean? Is more of the a little a little bit larger properties, 30 units, something like that. That's kind of where I'm aiming to get. Um, to be fair, like things I love now is I love talking to a warm lead. I love it. You give someone that, you know, we're close on price, but not totally there yet. And, I can come in and kind of talk to them and crack jokes and just kind of be funny with them. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about at like meetups when you meet people. Be authentic and be yourself. Like everybody hates a dry, stuffy businessman. That sucks. You know what I mean? Like nobody likes that. So, I can kind of let my personality shine, make some jokes, and kind of get through it. So, I mean, I really, really enjoy talking to warm leads and kind of whether or not it doesn't always work, but getting them to understand at least where we are and to justify where our price is and why it needs to be there. I kind of that's one of the things I love doing.
When it comes to pricing, it just reminded me of something I've heard quite frequently, and that's like when you make an offer, you should be embarrassed about your offer, and that's how you know it's a good offer. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I just bought a place in Harrisburg not that long ago, and I uh, I expected to be at a certain number, and I went way low, expecting to come up, and the guy took it, and I was just like, whoa. And I'm not saying like say for like a good wholesale price as an example, and we're going to use even numbers. Say you need to be 100. Your max might be 120. You want to pick it up at 100. I'm not saying go and offer them, like 40 because that sucks. But like you always have to anchor low. Like that's the thing. You always have to anchor low. The point in negotiation is like both sides have to give. The other side has to feel like they're kind of helping you out. The other person needs to feel like, well, I got them to come up some. You know what I mean? There always has to be. It's like a tango, man. Like you just got to learn how to dance properly, and it you are right. Like you do have to anchor low always. Sometimes they say yes right away, and it's like, whoa, cool. You know what I mean? Well, you're not going to say that on the phone with them, but like you're like, okay, cool. Other times, you can use that low price and they're just like, no, that doesn't work. And you can use that for an anchor to go on a creative deal way higher. Or, you can, well, let me look, let me see what I can do and maybe come up a little bit more. But you always have to anchor low, always. I mean, that's just kind of the name of the game. Um, like I said, whenever I do it, like I don't want to be disgusting with it. You know what I mean? Like, I give myself that I can go up a little bit, but I don't, if I need to be at like 135, I'm not offering 80. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I try to be respectful with it personally. So,
Yeah, like we
the
were
real
talking about.
thing,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Okay, I was about to say the real thing is if you find out what the motivation is and like why they're selling and how this solves the problem, most of the time, like that helps you way more in the negotiation than the low anchor pricing coming up. I mean, I would say out of all of it, like prices, I mean, it's important, don't get me wrong, but really like why? Like what's going on in this person's life that, they are in this position? That's always the biggest part of the deal, honestly. Like, and it sounds so funny if you would talk to a person, that they might own their home and that's the only real estate deal they've done. They're like, oh, that's stupid. And it's like, well, like do a lot of deals and you'll see what I mean. Like, there's always a problem, and it's like what's going on, and like genuinely caring and being there for that person and like seeing what's up and what you can do to help them. And if you can propose the right solution and work on their timeline, typically price is one of the least important things out of that whole deal.
I think that goes kind of full circle with what we were talking about earlier with just building those relationships and just being curiosity driven because you'll never know
Hmm.
those things unless you take the time to try to understand the other person and figure out where they're coming from.
100%, 100%. I mean, it's almost like having the balls to ask the hard question, but not like grilling them like your dad would. Like, well, why'd you do that? And it's like, well, dang, John, like that sounds pretty like how did you even get into that? You know what I mean? It's not just like what when and believe me, like I've heard stuff and I'm just like, how, why? You know what I mean? But like going in curious. I mean, just like what let's unpack the situation. Like how did this go from that to here? You know, and just not like judging them, like just it's just like a regular conversation. You know what I mean? You're not judging them. You're like just listening, listening and open-ended questions, and it's crazy what that'll get you.
And it's amazing because everybody wants to get into a creative deal, no money out of pocket, very little money out of pocket. And the way to find those opportunities is to listen, is
Oh
to
yeah,
be a friend.
100%, 100%. I mean, the thing with creative deal, you got to keep in mind, like you're married to that person for usually a minimum of 5 to 7 years, minimum. You know what I mean? So you have to have there needs to be trust like established with everybody and like all parties involved. You know, that's that's the biggest thing is you really need to listen to them and you need to build rapport like no other with creative deals. That person needs to have trust in you that you're doing the right thing by them.
Do you think starting out someone should learn cash or just go straight off with creative if it works?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. There's other things that would be involved in that is like, how much capital do they have to work with? That's always a big thing is like, do you have money set aside for things or, to come up with an entry fee? I would say I would say if you're brand new, I probably would not. Let me answer this a different way. If I was brand new and I was buying a deal from a wholesaler, brand new, I probably would stay away from sub two deals from wholesalers, with the way that they need to be structured properly, unless it's like, someone that that's been like slamming these deals and they're doing good. Um, Typically, your first deal, realistically, it doesn't matter. Just go out and do the deal. Um, it Either or, to be honest. I would probably stay away from a sub two for your very, very, very first deal if you're not in like a community of people like sub two that do it. If you're just kind of out on your own, I probably wouldn't just because there's a lot of extra steps involved with it. But if you could buy a creative deal like that, it's a tired landlord that they own the property forever and you're making payments, directly to him, like absolutely. Absolutely go do that. Cash or regular creative deal, either or. I think they'd be pretty safe. I would just, like I said, sub two, like do them absolutely, but just if you do it, make sure they're structured properly because they can get rocky pretty quick.
A lot of risk involved, a lot of variables.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
Risk in any transaction, but those especially.
hmm Yeah, yeah. The big bad boogeyman calls you, and there's ways to fix it. There's always ways to fix it, but when you're brand new and this is all like you're just in this world, and it's like, whoa, like boogeyman called, what's going on? And you have it's all fixable. It's all able to be taken care of, but especially when you're brand new and like if you're not tied in with people that are doing a lot of it, it can get very overwhelming quick.
My only thought to that was getting into real estate is just super exciting, but everything's on fire. That is what I it's kind
Oh
of what I
yeah.
felt like. Every time something came up, it was always an emergency. It always had to be done right that minute. Everything was just I mean,
hmm
everything still is exciting. There's always something new to learn, but everything is not on fire anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Whenever I first started, And there's so many stories. I mean, I could talk for hours just about the weirdest things that I've seen or had to deal with, but like stuff that I've handled differently from, 26 when I had rentals or like my first rental property to now, stuff that would have kind of been a big deal to me back then. Like I just am like, whatever. Now, you know what I mean? So it goes eventually it goes from everything's on fire, everything needs done yesterday to like, it's okay. It's getting worked on now. It's fine.
Absolutely. Brian, thanks again for coming on. Where can people go to find out more about what you're working on and just connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Bryan underscore DeMuro. Feel free to send me cat videos if you want. You can also reach out and talk to me about real estate. You can also follow my real estate page on Instagram, Maple Lane Homebuyers. And you guys can call me, text me, 717-636-0084.
Get ready to get blown up.
Hopefully. Yes, sir.
Well, dude, thanks again. You gave some really insightful tips tonight. I really appreciate it. I myself learned a lot. I got a full page of notes here. So thanks again for
Glad to
your
hear it,
time.
man. Always. Chris, have a good night. I appreciate it, man.